We are ready to start with this session, which is entitled Demystifying Women-Led Development for India at the rate 2030. Without much further ado, I warmly welcome the esteemed moderator for the session, Ms. Sachi Bhalla, Senior Program Officer at Bill and Melinda Gates, to please join us on stage. Also, please join me in welcoming on stage and extending a very warm and hearty welcome to Ms. Mercy Pao, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India. We warmly welcome Ms. Kanta Singh, Deputy Country Representative, UN Women, India. A warm and hearty welcome to Ms. Saloni Malhotra, CEO, Reboot Wellness. So a warm welcome to our all-women panel. Before I hand it over to the esteemed moderator, a quick introduction to all the esteemed panelists. Sachi works on the Policy and Strategic Partnerships team at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation India office. She leads the policy team's initiatives focused on gender equality and nutrition and is supporting efforts on strengthening South-South cooperation for progress on the SDGs. And prior to joining the foundation, she was with Deloitte Consulting. We warmly welcome Ms. Mercy Pao. She is Joint Secretary in Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Prior to her current posting, she has served Government of India in various capacities across ministries and departments for the last 25 years. As Joint Secretary, she is in charge of implementation of various schemes pertaining to small and medium enterprises, including National SC/ST Hub Scheme, which is dedicated to supporting SC/ST entrepreneurs. Ms. Kanta Singh has 25 years of experience in the management of pro-women development programs. She has worked with national and international organizations to promote women in formal economy, sports, and politics. Her last assignment was with UNDP, where she spent 9 years, and currently she is the Deputy Representative with UN Women India. A very warm welcome. We warmly welcome Ms. Saloni Malhotra, who is the co-founder of Reboot Wellness. She previously served as the former vice president at Paytm, and she led AGM at Invest India, accelerating innovation. An entrepreneur at heart, she has invested in Reboot Wellness and Desi Crew Solutions, which is a socially motivated BPO. A very warm welcome to all the esteemed panelists. And with that, I hand it over to the esteemed moderator.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this panel on demystifying women-led development for India at 2030. I think we can all agree that gender equality is an issue that's time has come. And there is strong agreement that a society cannot achieve its potential if 50% of its population is at a disadvantage. The concept of a gender dividend has recently entered broader economic policy discussion. And gender dividends are really coming from taking steps to increase the amount and value of paid work and the level of productivity of the female population. So it's not just that it is a question of economic value. I think gender equality is a human rights issue. It's something that we all agree is critical for the world, a world of justice. And also, in addition, that economies, the entire population, men and boys, women and girls, as Ambassador Shombi Sharp reminded us, will benefit if we have a more gender equal society. I won't spend too much time getting into the details of what all we need to do. I think we have a great panel here that will share with us what is that path forward for women-led development. But I think just to sort of share a brief comment on this shift from a conventional women's development narrative to such an empowering narrative of women-led development. And this has really sort of repositioned how we see women or how policymakers see women, and not just in India, but more globally, thanks to the G20, which really made sure that women-led development became part of the core G20 agenda, including the setting up of a working group on the empowerment of women, which means that every G20 going forward will also focus on women-led development. There have been many gains over the past few years, past few decades. We'll speak about some of those, but the issue of gender inequality still persists. And maybe that's what we'll focus on today in a sense. How do we use the approach? How do we take forward an approach of women led development to really help India achieve the SDGs? There's not that much time left. We have 7 years, actually 6 years now, to achieve the SDGs or Agenda 2030. So maybe I'll start with Ma'am Ms. Mercy Ipaus to speak a little bit about your perspectives on what is women-led development and what's the path forward for India to strengthen women's economic empowerment.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you, and thank you for having me. I'm from the Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises. And in the ministry, I just want to share what the government is doing to help support the MSMEs, especially the women. And from the vision of MSMEs in 2047, we have stated that we want the women to come up to 50%. Right now, it is around 20% when we look at the UDM registration. And we want the women also to be at 50%. So this is one of the vision where we are trying to support our women MSMEs, the entrepreneurs, to come up. Secondly, we have also taken a very proactive step under the Samarth initiative. This was launched in March 22. And under this Samarth initiative, we are saying that every capacity building programs that we run, 20% will be reserved for women. And we also have a huge list of international fairs and exhibitions, around 800 lists, which are most popular, cutting across the sector, across the globe. And so for participation in these fairs and exhibition, we want 20% at least reserved for women. The third thing is we want all the National Small Industry Corporation, NSIC, it's a CPSC under our ministry, all the commercial schemes, we want 20% reserved for women under this Samarth initiative. And the fourth thing is we are having a special UDM campaign. So across the country, we are having awareness campaign. We are trying to bring the women under the formal sector. Right now, we have also started a new initiative called UDM Assisted Portal. This requires only the PAN card. You don't have to have the GST card and many other documents which usually our rural women do not possess. And so we are opening up this very special window where all the entrepreneurs who are under informal sector, we want to formalize them. And so under the UAP, we have now crossed more than 1 crore 22 lakh. And out of that, 70.15% lakh, 70%, I think exactly it is 71%, yeah. 71% are women. And I think that is very encouraging because in the rural and maybe tier 3, 4 cities and towns of the country, many women entrepreneurs are there. But because of our cultural context, usually the property and the enterprise names are registered in either their husband's name or father's name or brother's name, the male member of the family. And although it is the women who is running it. And so we want to encourage our women to come on board under the formal sector and also have the eligibility to access whatever schemes and programs the government is supporting them. So these are some of the important steps that we have taken. And if we look at some of the important schemes of the ministry, such as a Prime Minister Employment Generation Fund, we know right now the number one sector is agriculture, where maximum employment is being generated. Second is MSME. One of our vision is that we want to be number one when we become 2047, 100 years, Amrit Kal, India. So that's also one of our vision. And so here under the Prime Minister Employment Generation Fund, if you look at the total number of entrepreneurs, 9.29 lakh entrepreneurs have been helped, out of which 2.99, around 3 lakh are women. And the funding, the support, the subsidy component that we have given to them is 8,685 crores. And under the CGTMSE, Credit Guarantee Scheme for Micro, Small and Enterprises, we give 10% extra which means if the others are getting 75, for the women, we are giving them 85%. And if you look at that, you will find that from inception, which is 2000, till December last year, an amount of 80,486 crore have been guaranteed in respects of loan avail, and 16,069 lakh accounts of women-led SMEs. And I think these figures are quite substantial. And we are hoping that as we bring in our women under the formal umbrella, they will become more eligible for the many schemes and the subsidy support that the government is giving them. And if you look at our cluster development, I know the earlier session talks about the cluster development. And so in MSME ministry, we are also having some very good scheme, such as traditional artisans, Sufurti clusters. And if you look at the figures here, it is 1.65 lakh women artisans have been supported in the traditional sector, such as handloom, handicraft, coir, agro-processing, etc. And out of the 513 clusters approved by our ministry, 68 clusters are 100% women-owned SMEs. And I think these figures are encouraging. We are working very hard how to make women more self-reliant, and especially in the capacity building also. We have heard a lot of the women and their association, many SAG groups, many FPOs, many cooperatives that have approached us saying that women require digital training. They need to be trained in e-commerce sector. They need to learn how to develop very good catalog and onboard them on GEM, because under the PPP, which is public procurement policy of the government, 3% is mandatory from the women. And so here, we're also helping the women to onboard on GEM. And we are carrying along the GEM officials and the other stakeholders wherever we conduct a special campaign, wherever we have our conclaves, so that we encourage the women to come forward and we handhold them to onboard some of these important portals. And if you look at the figures of this also, it is quite impressive. Under the Khadi scheme also, we are having a special component for women. And it is said that the cumulative employment in Khadi sector is also around 80%. And we have honey, and we have handloom sector, we have food processing, and many of the beauty products as well. And under the Kumhar Sashaktikaran program, from 2017 to 2023, a total of 1,03,760 numbers are generated, out of which around 26,000 are women across the country. And if you look at the coir sector, we have a special dedicated scheme for women also, where we give them stipend, and we also have a very dedicated scheme which helps the women to get employment and also earn their livelihood. And if you look at all the programs, especially the around 20 some schemes we run, women participation are quite substantive, and we're also giving very special attention to develop our women. So when you look at the women landscape in our country, many of the pockets, especially the tribal areas, I come from the Northeast, and so when you look at the Northeast economy, most of the states are women-led. And we need very special focus for these things. So in our PMEGP also, we have also added animal husbandry and some of the farming sector for our MSMEs. And we also congratulate them. As our earlier session, I've heard the speakers spoke about how we need to congratulate them, how they have to come out fighting against many challenges and odds, the traditional culture setting that our women folks are coming out of, and how so many stakeholders are working towards the development of women. And so we hope that by the time we reach not only 2047, but by the time we reach the 2030, I hope that our women folk will be in the front, leading. And I know that many of you who are participating today are entrepreneurs, and even our panelists here, they are entrepreneurs. And so I congratulate them. You are a role model. And whatever we can do at a policy level, especially in the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, kindly reach out to us. We are actively engaged with the WEP of Niti Aayog, and we are also trying to build data. And once we have the women data, we will be able to bring out better schemes and how to really fill up the gap, the critical gaps that we feel, especially among the women. And so we hope that with all the stakeholders coming together to handhold our women folk, we will demystify that women cannot do. In fact, women can lead, women are champions, and women can really contribute to the growth of not only the society, but also contribute in our GDP at large. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your perspectives and sharing the number of initiatives that the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Industries Enterprises is taking to support women. And I think it's really exciting to see that across ministries, the efforts that are being made to support easing access to finance, capacity building, skilling, and also supporting market access is helping women's enterprises really grow and become more sustainable. Maybe I could turn to you now, Sonal. You've had a career which spans across the private sector and the social development sector. Could you share with us a little bit about your perspective about how investing in gender equality is good economics?
Thank you so much. I think the credibility to sit here on stage today is because of the first organization that I started, which is India's first rural BPO. And not by design, but just how it turned out. Almost 80% of the workforce turned out to be women in the rural areas who were educated, had to come back either for taking care of their families or didn't want to leave, coming to the center and saying that we want white collar jobs as well. And I just wanted to thank ma'am here because she mentioned the CGMST scheme. As we went about raising money to build the organization, it's a 15-year-old organization with about 1,100 people. I think the best money that we've ever received has been the CGMST loan. It has been by far, and I could be your ambassador literally because the number of people I've sent, to the bank saying that you must take this loan, whether it's a women-run business or a business run by a man. But it is one of the best policy changes that I think were brought about. And we went on to raise a lot of different kind of capital, from the VCs, from angel investors. But literally that one loan was special because one, you can walk in and you can take a loan without any collateral, which I think is very, very important for for a lot of young entrepreneurs and especially for women entrepreneurs who may not have something in their name. But I think I wanted to also share that there's a BCG study that says that while women-led businesses don't get enough investment in the country, women-led businesses generate more revenue per dollar. So a woman-led business will generate 71 cents to a dollar versus other businesses will generate 31 cents to a dollar. So it is just far better use of money. And I'm going to leave it with that thought here and come back to the discussion. Over to you.
Thank you, Sonal. Kantaji, you have been working with UN agencies for decades, and Ambassador Sharp also shared with us so many of the efforts being undertaken by UN agencies supporting the government of India. I think it will be really helpful to understand your perspective on some of the cross-cutting initiatives that can help unlock resources and can really sort of prompt action across sectors to support gender equality and specifically women's economic empowerment.
थैंक यू साची। मैं मैम के साथ कई बार पैनल पे रही हूँ, लेकिन आज कहना चाहती हूँ कि अब क्या गज़ल सुनाऊँ इन्हें देखने के बाद। When you hear comments say things that we've done everything possible for women, there's nothing much left for civil society organizations to do other than helping the government to implement some of those schemes. And I think that is what we are here for. There's a lot that's happening, and I'm very happy to report a couple of things here, Sachi. One definitely is that there's a lot of noise now around women's entrepreneurship. everybody is talking about is starting from G20 to the world leaders to globally today. If you listen to some of the dialogues in Davos, and somebody mentioned yesterday that there's a lot of work happening in Davos on gender equality. Trust me, 5 years, 10 years back, it wasn't there. So I'm happy about that development, that probably everyone has started realizing that there's a human capital here which is unutilized and which can do probably wonders, and what Saloni was saying, can bring in more contributions to the GDP. So that is a felt need, I would say. Women have created that space for themselves, but I think the world has also realized that we need to bring in more women into the ecosystem. Second thing is, most of the women who are into enterprises and livelihood, they're working for their livelihoods, are in the nano sector. They're not even micro. And that's where the challenge is, and also the opportunity, probably. The millions of salons or beauty parlors, as they call them in rural areas, have been working at the same level for decades. Now, how do we scale them up? How do we build their capacity? How do you improve the hygiene and services so that they start training and employing more women? And there are multiple sectors like that. We have been listening since morning about SSGs and the transformative change that SSGs have brought in women's lives, but I think we need to move from there. From the beneficiary approach to the development approach to bringing women in leadership. And I think that's what women-led development is about. We have been having women as receiving something either from the government or from civil society organizations or multilateral bodies. But how do they lead now? And that is another challenge that we are facing in the country. 14% women in the parliament, 20% and less than 20% women in entrepreneurship, 4% CEOs, 3% in judiciary. I mean, there's a lot that I can talk about numbers, but unless women take charge of their own destiny, I would say, things are not going to change much. And I think Prime Minister Modi has been able to get a lot of attention, and I think a lot of also resistance in the beginning when we started talking in G20 about women-led development. Many countries were resisting this word. They're saying, what is women-led development? What are you talking about? But I think in Government of India was very persistent and also committed to say that we now want to see more women in leadership. And 30 by 30, that means 30% women in all leadership positions by 2030 was one of the things that was talked about throughout the G20 presidency. Many world leaders have also committed to doing or taking concrete steps about that. As far as UN agencies are concerned, Sachi, and I will talk about UNDP and UN Women in particular because I have worked with both the agencies. I think 50% of UNDP's work is about gender equality, about women's entrepreneurship, about employment, skilling. And I think everything will lead to some kind of gain for women, either in their education or their employment or earning money or taking charge of their lives. UN Women is one of the smallest agencies of the UN system. एंड जो बाहर हम देखते हैं कि women की जो हालत है UN सिस्टम में UN women की भी वही हालत है. We are not only the youngest but smallest in terms of revenue. We are also struggling to get more money for gender equality, and there's a huge need to raise the issue of financing for gender equality. And UN Women has been at the forefront of raising those issues. We have been working again through the SE program on education, skilling, livelihoods, and entrepreneurship. What we have seen is that women are not same. A woman from Karnataka is completely different from a woman in Northeast, for example. Starts with awareness, starts with also access to finance, but we paid way too much attention on access to finance. There's a whole lot of other support that women need. And I think we need to pay attention to that. GEM ma'am was talking about GEM. We know that about 30% of the GEM registrations are, or 30% women have registered. 30%. 3%? No, all the registrations that have happened on GEM, I think 37% are women. but they don't generate revenue. रेवेन्यू जनरेशन वाले जितने भी स्कीम्स होती हैं या जहाँ से औरतें प्रोक्योर कर सकते हैं औरतों से, वो दे डोंट आइदर हैव क्वांटिटी और क्वालिटी. So I think we also need to pay attention to that so that they can start supplying to the government and other agencies and also export. So there are multiple gaps, but today let's focus on what we can do jointly, how UN agencies can continue to work with civil society organizations to reach to the most marginalized, because दिल्ली में तो शायद कुछ लोग को पता होगा, कर्नाटका में भी पता है, उत्तराखंड में भी पता है. So 3 points and then I'll stop, Sachi. One definitely is the leadership across sectors is very, very critical. Second is wealth transfer. 87% of world's land is in the name of men. And that is not equal and that's not fair. And that is the most structural barrier that women face. Whether they go to the bank or they go to anyone, they don't have the confidence to go and ask for more money unless they have something in their name. And third is how I think women also we have to invest in women's training, capacity building, and also bringing them in the forefront so that the women-led development agenda is actually actualized in the real sense. I'll stop here, but I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Kantaji. Ma'am, if I can come back to you, Kantaji said it's not, we spend a lot of time and talking about access to finance. But you also mentioned the GEM platform, you also mentioned the public procurement targets that we have. Could you please help us understand what can we do as as social development sector, as government, as private sector, as those working very closely with community organizations, to support women actually being able to make use of the types of schemes for strengthening public procurement, since that can be one very clear pathway to access to markets that can also encourage the private sector to procure from similar organizations, and of course can support the government itself in achieving its targets of 3% public procurement.
As you have already said, 3% is mandatory for procurement by the government. And so what we are trying to help the women is reaching out to them. And we realize that the women entrepreneurs are having some very niche product, but they need technology because they need to standardize their products. They need testing and they need quality certification. And so here also we are helping them. And in order to put up a beautiful catalog on the portal of GEM, we're also in touch with GEM, how they can help in cataloging their products, and also, if possible, on the landing page itself, how they can create a separate page for the women. And that, of course, includes SCs and STs, also scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And so these are some of the things that we are helping our women, not only in the credit, but for the market as well. And we are also trying to help them on board on the e-market platform. And right now, it is not final as yet, but then we are hoping that in the near future, Ministry of MSME will be able to onboard many of our entrepreneurs on ONDC platform. And so there is a lot that is going on. Also for the marketing, export of goods and services, we are in collaboration with Exim Bank, we are also creating a GMIS, Global Market Intelligence System. And under this system, we will be having most of the information that is required for the first-time exporters. And so here, women stands to benefit a lot because they do not have the idea where their products and services can be sold, where the market is available, how to have the B2B meeting with the counterpart countries. And so we are trying to build in a portal which will be accessible and then will be user-friendly along with Exim also. And here we are hoping that many MSMEs will become exporters. As we work towards the 5 trillion USD economy, these are some of the interventions that we are working at. And for the skilling part as well, Finance literacy is very important, and that's one of the gap that we have realized. And so, not only the NFDC courses that are already approved by the government, but also certain modules which are catering to their specific needs. We are also trying to accommodate some of those under our skilling programs, because upskilling is also required, not only the fresh skilling. So, yeah, a lot of those things are there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of those details. And I think there are many in the audience also who will be able to support some of these efforts, and we'd be happy to connect with all of you later. Saloni, if I can come back to you, if you could share a little bit about, digital technologies, and what do we need to do to ease access to digital technologies so that we can truly get to women-led development, because I think we can all agree that without it's not possible to work today without being comfortable and being able to actually have a benefit from digital.
Very important question, and something that I'm extremely passionate about, to be honest. Um, you know, earlier a small self-help group could make their products, and the government had schemes where they would go to a fair, either domestically or internationally, um, you know, put a showcase, put a stall, sell their goods, and come back. This entire process is now extremely complicated. If you want to list on ONDC, if you want to list on an Amazon, if you want to list on a Flipkart, you need to know how to list. You need to know SEO. You need to know visibility is a huge issue even after listing. In fact, one of the biggest issues. You need to be able to take photography. You need to be able to now do video, right? So all of these are very specialized skills that one person honestly cannot do on their own. You need an army and a different kind of setup that can sort of help, do these listings and bring it to the forefront. Most often, and I was with the ONDC team at Paytm till 2 months ago. Uh, what we've often seen is that a lot of the programs will come up with and request that the catalog be brought forward because it is a minority catalog of some sort. But for the user is more interested in just seeing a beautiful product and deciding what to buy. So there's always a conflict. And I feel that the younger girls, and we've often seen this and we've heard this in large NGOs that have, large women population. The younger girls don't want to do the same thing that their mothers were doing. They don't want to go and weave, or they don't want to go and go back to the farm. They want a white collar job. So they can be trained in some of these new skill sets that are needed for everybody to move ahead in that region. And it doesn't take a lot. It's one center in maybe a taluk, or a central location that like that. It takes about 1 crore to set up that one particular center. Skill people on the new skill sets that are needed that enable everybody in that village. So for 200, 300 villages, one center that is digitally trained, digitally skilled, understands this new skill set and gets the entire catalog up in a way that the user wants to see it and propels a purchase behavior. And a lot of these models do exist. They just need to sort of now, with DPIs coming in and ONDC coming in, Sahamati coming in, they just need a boost because that's the only way. Otherwise, we'll digitally be cut off over a period of time.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think this will just be my last question to Kantaji before we open up to the audience. So please be ready with your questions as well. Saloni mentioned a lot about, sort of hinted at aspirations that young women have, aspirations to do different work. We know that the unpaid care work burden is a huge challenge. It's a burden largely borne by women, and while there's a lot that is happening in terms of, say, the Ujjwala scheme, easing access to fuel through gas connections, or the more recently launched Palna scheme, which is making available creches through Anganwadi cum creches, launched by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Kantaji, could you share a little bit more about the care economy? What's the potential of the care economy to really fuel this women-led development?
Thank you, Sachi. I'll start with aspirations first. I think the only critical factor is the exposure. Otherwise, I don't see any difference between the aspiration of a girl child and a boy child, or a rural child and an urban child. Only depending on the exposure they get. And I'll go by what to my childhood, and I used to think हमारे घर की छत के ऊपर से हवाई जहाज जाता था और मुझे लगता था कि मुझे हवाई जहाज में बैठना है। ये कैसे बैठते होंगे, कौन लोग होंगे ये। मुझे सपने भी हवाई जहाज के आते थे। जिसने हवाई जहाज नहीं देखा वो कैसे सपने लेगा उसके। जितना बच्चों को एक्सपोज करेंगे उतना ही उनके सपने बड़े होंगे। पहली बात तो ये। दूसरा ये है कि वी डोंट इन्वेस्ट इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट अ गर्ल चाइल्ड ड्रीम्स। एवरीबडी वांट्स टू नो फ्रॉम अ बॉय चाइल्ड क्या बनना चाहते हो बड़े होके। कोई लड़कियों पे पूछता ही नहीं है। You ask any young girl, probably I heard it when I was in my late 30s when somebody asked me, तुम क्या बनना चाहती हो? And I was really surprised कि seriously nobody asked us this question before. Not our parents, not the community. Number one. So one is we need to start investing our young minds because everybody has the same aspiration provided they get the exposure. That's number one. अब दुनिया भर का करीब 76% care responsibility, Sachi, on your point of care economy, is borne by women. They bear the responsibility for care work, unpaid care work. India में वो करीब 80% है. But that means 20%, only 20% of the care work is being done by men. 46% of the waking hours of a woman are spent in unpaid care work. And that's urban area में थोड़ा ज़्यादा है, by the way, rural areas में थोड़ा सा कम है. So that means अगर एक महिला 50%, almost 50% of her time she's spending on care work, where's the time for her to go out and start working? So that's how most of the enterprises are related to something they can do in their spare time. I was talking to a shopkeeper in Jaipur last year. वो जो बंधेज का काम होता है, तो हमने कहा कौन काम करता है ये, कितने पैसे मिलते हैं इसके। चुरू में, सीकर में, सब जगह होता है वहाँ राजस्थान में। उन्होंने एक बहुत ही सरप्राइजिंग बात कही। उन्होंने कहा औरतें करती हैं अपने खाली टाइम में, वैसे तो वो खाली बैठेंगी, उससे अच्छा ये काम कर लें। एंड आई सेड हाउ मच डू दे अर्न? बोले रोजाना के 50-60 रुपए। Now just imagine a sari which is being sold in the market for 5,000 rupees. A woman is getting total 200-300 rupees from that. Because वो उनका spare time मानते हैं उसको. They don't think that those are her productive hours, which she's probably saving from the other responsibilities and to work and earn some money from her family. So this is one of the most I will say अन्याय जिसको बोलते हैं ना, ये अन्याय है, where we keep calling women weak, yet we put more responsibility on them. So that's one. If we invest in more care economy related services, I think 475 million more jobs could be generated by 2030. So that is the potential. But that also means that women have to be trained, and even men have to be trained. This is not the responsibility of only women to take care of the families and society. Men have to start contributing to that. But they go to those services where they get paid. And women continue to bear the burden at home. So I think this requires more investment, Sachi. This also requires a more understanding amongst men and women to share the responsibilities. This also means that women will have to get into formal jobs which are related to care work so that they get paid and they also get good quality services.
Thank you, Kantaji. Maybe we can open up to the audience. If there are any questions, we can collect a few questions. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. And please also, if you can just state your name and if your question is directed to a specific person on the panel.
Good morning. I'm Amrit Singh from Cuts International. My question is when we are talking about nano entrepreneurs especially, Either we provide them, we talk of financial support or incubation support, but all the support, financial, economic, incubation, and but they also need mentoring and hand-holding support. So is there a package we can offer in a government scheme where we can provide all the support under one scheme for especially for nano entrepreneurs? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Right now, if you look at the Ministry of MSME, we start with micro, which means your turnover is 5 crore. We are also contemplating, it has not started, but we are also contemplating that we should also have a nano segment. And perhaps if that happens, then, for the nano, there will be many more components that will come up. So right now, that's not there. And right now, there is no scheme which addresses from under one umbrella, right from the entire value chain. There is no scheme like that in the government. And if you look at MSMEs, it's multi-sectoral, as you know, and there are several ministries which are catering to the MSMEs, textiles, agro, food processing. All these are largely MSMEs. And so there is no particular single scheme where you can get the entire value chain help. There is nothing like that. But as I said, there are credit, there are technology intervention, there are skilling, and there are market helping, and there is also a competitive scheme, okay, where it makes you competent to participate in public tenders. It also helps you in the processes. The hygiene is very important, as we all know. So how do you get the lean and the Z, zero effect, zero defect scheme? How do you have a very least carbon footprint in your processes? These kind of schemes are already there in the ministry. We have more than 20 schemes. So kindly follow us on the social media. We are very active there. You can also visit our website and see what are some of the schemes that you can take. But yeah, as of now, I would say that there is no one single scheme where the entire value chain is helped. Thank you.
I just wanted to supplement what ma'am said. There are some private efforts that are being made to provide end-to-end services to entrepreneurs. Mera Biznet, I don't know how many of you have heard about that. They are looking at services related to registration, to taxation, to filing the government papers and everything. Because all of you know that many of these enterprises are not registered as enterprises. That's how they're also not able to get benefit of the government schemes. So Mera Biznet hai, or I think ABWCI is also trying to create a platform through which they are providing basically Uberization of services, where you get consultants who can support you. If you're not happy with the services, they won't charge you, or they'll send another person. So, but they will provide foolproof and end-to-end services to smaller enterprises and women who are into non-formal enterprises.
Saloni, do you want to add?
I think there are a few other programs as well. There's Goldman Sachs 10K program for women, Shiro's, bunch of others. There are lots of AIB, Banasthali, Rajasthan. They have a special incubator only for women. And ma'am, just to add to his point, I just want to say that more women entrepreneurs are in the segment of sub 5 crores, sub 50 employees. That is the definition really that you will see as you go out. So bringing programs that are 30 lakhs to 2 crores, 2.5 crores is, I think, the most critical piece if one needs to really boost this. Yeah.
And I'd also add that the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, of course, has the mandate of a holistic empowerment agenda, and the types of collective enterprises that are getting formed through the SRLMs, through NRLM and the SRLMs, also then receive a lot of support. But I think your point is right, that nano enterprises have very unique needs, and potentially exploring how can we actually have holistic support available to these nano enterprises. Ma'am, I know you need to leave, and we thank you so much for joining us today. Yes. Maybe we'll just do one more question if there's another question from the audience, and then we can wrap up. Yes, please.
Hello. Hi, good morning. My name is Aditi, and I am Bangalore alum and a farmer and merchant trader by profession. 80% of my employees slash farmers are women. Most of our projects are there on all the e-commerce platform, Amazon, Flipkart. Now, the problem here we are facing as farmers is the gap between the so called government schemes, specifically for women or farmers, irrespective of gender, and the kind of projects or kind of products we are making. There are so many so called private consultants slash brokers, and they promised us that we will get you the right accessibility or visibility and of any government scheme, and we'll get you the right grants or funds or loans for the expansion. But unfortunately we were scammed, and how. So I would like to know how to bridge the gap. My personal experience has been that it's very difficult to access the government schemes directly through any of the government portals. Thank you.
I don't think we are equipped to answer that question. Somebody from the Agriculture Ministry or somebody who's working in agriculture probably can make the contribution here. And as we understand, I think the farmers' protest was about this. You can go to the ministry's website. Yes. No. So maybe you can check the ministry's website. At least I don't know about this.
Thank you. I think with that, we're also over time. Thank you to the panelists for joining us today and for sharing your insights. I think this is a really exciting time. I think there's a lot to do, and it requires all of us from government, from private sector, from the social development sector to come together to be able to actually unleash women-led development and help with the achievement of Agenda 2030, the SDGs. Thank you to the great audience here, and we look forward to interacting with you later over today and tomorrow as well.
Thank you, Sachi.
A big thanks to the esteemed moderator and the panelists of this session. May I request you all to stay back for a group photo op?